Question number 5, Dr. Webster NG. President, thank you. It is reported that in recent years, some accounting services intermediaries undertook audit business work at abnormally low fees, while the annual remuneration of the independent non-executive directors, or INEDs, of certain listed companies were obviously on the low side. There are views that the above situations may reflect that manpower, time, and resources put into the relevant work were insufficient, which has affected the audit quality and standards of corporate governance. In this connection, will the government inform this Council, 1. Whether the government or the Accounting and Financial Reporting Council, AFRC, has conducted investigations, assessments, and statistical surveys over the past 3 years on the respective market situations in which audit business was undertaken at abnormally low fees and the remuneration of INEDs was obviously on the low side, if so, of the details. 2. Whether the government has any existing mechanism to monitor the level of fees charged by accounting services intermediaries for audit services and the levels of remuneration of INEDs of listed companies to ensure that the manpower required, the workload, and professional procedures commensurate with the fees and remuneration. And 3. Whether the government will study and formulate measures jointly with the stakeholders to combat the practice of providing audit services at abnormally low fees and reviewing the guidelines on remuneration of INEDs in the Corporate Governance Code issued by the Stock Exchange of Hong Kong Limited to avoid the possibility of low remuneration affecting the governance of the boards and audit committees of corporations. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. President, high-quality audits and sound corporate governance are the cornerstones of market confidence and investor protection. In consultation with the AFRC and the Hong Kong Exchange and Clearance Limited, Hong Kong X, our consolidated reply to the various parts of the question is as follows. Monitoring audit quality is a core function of the AFRC. The Accounting and Financial Reporting Council Ordinance confers statutory powers on the AFRC to perform its duties. Regarding whether audit fees directly affect audit quality, the AFRC notes that there are different views in the market. To examine this issue, the AFRC has been collecting relevant views and data through market research and questionnaires, as well as systematically gathering information on the level of audit fees for listed companies in Hong Kong. According to the report on the analysis of the public interest entity audit market in Hong Kong published by the AFRC in March 2024, audit fees for Hong Kong listed companies remained stable between 2018 and 2022, with the compound annual growth rates of mean and median audit fees being 0.4% and 0.2% respectively. In 2022, the mean and median audit fees per engagement were maintained at 5.4 million and 2.1 million Hong Kong dollars respectively, broadly in line with previous years. As for non-listed companies, there is currently no requirement for practice units to disclose relevant audit fee information, and the AFRC has not compiled statistics in this regard. In response to cases where companies appointed auditors solely on the consideration of audit fees, the AFRC issued 2 open letters and 1 set of guidance notes in 2022 and 2023, clearly stating that the consideration of audit quality should outweigh audit fees in auditor selection. Between 2023 and 2024, the AFRC also collaborated with professional bodies and regulators to conduct a series of thematic briefings, reminding the market of the importance of prudent auditor appointment and appropriate determination of audit fees. Since the AFRC's proactive attention to the issue and implementation of the above measures, the AFRC has observed that the proportion of auditor changes in listed companies involving fee cuts of 20% or more has gradually decreased from 62% in 2020 to 53% in 2024. Under the mechanism of a free market, audit fee levels are influenced by supply and demand, and practice units determine their fees based on their own commercial considerations. In the current circumstances, it may not be conducive to industry development for the government or the AFRC to set or interfere with fee levels. However, the AFRC is duty-bound to uphold audit quality, and the existing regulatory regime already provides adequate safeguards. In its day-to-day regulatory work, the AFRC monitors whether auditors possess sufficient resources and professional competence to discharge their duties. If the level of fees of an engagement is clearly disproportionate to the scope, risk, and complexity of the work, the AFRC will further examine whether sufficient manpower, time, and professional resources have been deployed, and assess whether there are any issues relating to audit quality or professional conduct. Where audit services are referred through accounting service intermediaries, the auditors concerned are still required to adhere to professional ethics and remain responsible for audit quality and professional judgment. If there is evidence that auditors have failed to comply with auditing standards or ethical requirements, the AFRC will take appropriate regulatory or disciplinary action according to the law. In the event that suspected criminal conduct is identified, the case will be referred to the police for investigation. The AFRC will continue to engage with the industry and welcomes the reporting of improper conduct. It will keep the situation under review and, where necessary, introduce further measures, including the provision of guidance and education with a view to upholding audit quality. The government is committed to promoting Hong Kong X to continuously enhance the corporate governance standards of listed issuers. To ensure effectiveness, independence, and diversity of boards of directors, the existing listing rules and corporate governance code have established relevant governance and disclosure framework to raise governance standards and at the same time provide issuers with sufficient flexibility to cater for their operational and business needs, thereby supporting the robust development of capital market. The latest amendments to the Corporate Governance Code and the related listing rules by Hong Kong X came into effect in July 2025. These include the introduction of requirements for directors' continuing professional development and enhanced disclosure requirements on board of performance evaluation, with a view to strengthening directors' ability to discharge their duties and improving overall board effectiveness. With respect to the appointment and remuneration of directors of listed issuers, the listing rules require issuers to establish a nominating committee chaired by the chairman of the board or an independent non-executive director, and a remuneration committee chaired by the INED. In both committees, INEDs must constitute the majority. The nomination committee is required to formulate and disclose a policy on the nomination of directors. The remuneration committee is required to establish policies and procedures relating to directors' remuneration and make recommendations to the board on the policy and structure for directors and senior management remuneration. The code further stipulates that the issuers should formulate formal and transparent policies and procedures on directors' remuneration and other related matters so as to maintain reasonableness of directors' remuneration. Hong Kong X also provides issuers with guidelines and resources through various arrangements to assist them in realizing and enhancing corporate governance of directors. Taking into account the above, the government is confident that the existing mechanisms are sufficient to safeguard audit quality and enhance corporate governance standards of listed issuers. The AFRC and the Hong Kong X will continue to discharge their duties diligently and exercise oversight stringently. We welcome views from the market and the industry. We will continue to introduce various monitoring and enhancement measures to combat improper conduct so as to jointly promote the healthy development of Hong Kong's capital market. Dr. Webster NG. Thank you, President. In relation to the Secretary's reply, I'd like to offer some information to the Secretary. In fact, the AFRC published a report earlier. Between 2010 and 2021, asset of listed companies grew by 91%, with average increase in income by 67%, but audit fees only increased by 9%. For INEDs, the highest remuneration was pitched at $12.97 million, and the fifth ranked, the one ranking the fifth earned $2.92 million. For the lowest remuneration, however, is just 6,000 RMB. Whereas for audit services, for SMEs, it could be pitched at $1,000 or $1,600. Now, we fully appreciate the need to monitor the compliance aspect, but under the free market mechanism and the range of fees charged, is there anything to help the profession improve the audit quality and the publication of audit reports and enhance corporate governance? Secretary. Thank you, President. I think the member's concern is totally valid. As far as the day-to-day work, the focus is on continuous improvement of the overall quality of the market. And one core factor is corporate governance as well as audit quality. Let me answer Dr. Ng's question from multiple perspectives. First, regulation. The AFRC maintains its involvement and participation throughout the process to ensure audit quality. In the initial stage, of course, the AFRC has oversight over registration matters. At the later stage, the AFRC also handles complaints against auditors. The quality of work will be inspected to see if it is in compliance with the requirements as a licensee. As for day-to-day regulatory work, in fact, we handle complaints. We also conduct regular inspections. In fact, yesterday, the AFRC published an annual inspection report and conducted media briefing in relation to their work in 2025-26. This is an active response to the launching of complaints, and this is also part of the day-to-day regulatory work to ensure audit quality. The third point is about what happens after the publication of report. If there are problems arising from audit quality that shows a major departure from the regulatory requirements, then the AFRC will step in and conduct active investigation as intervention. There'll be suitable follow-up action as well. So you see the AFRC's participation throughout the process. We also take follow-up action in relation to changes in the field of auditing and the fees through intervention over the past period of time. In fact, the rate or the percentage of decrease of fees for auditors have tapered off. And I think what is more important is a shift in culture, and that is from the perspective of consumers or the market. We need to differentiate the good from the bad, and that for those charging really low audit fees, they do not come with good quality. And that this will affect the listed entities' operation as well as investor confidence. And that is why the executive director announced yesterday that the focus is on audit quality, and we hope to see a paradigm shift of mentality, and that from the demand side, that is, as far as consumers are concerned, they should consider auditing work something relevant to not only the books but also the quality assurance as well as reputation. Now, I can give you one example. Hong Kong has been developing itself into a green financial center, and there have been major changes. At first, the market had reluctance on complying with the green finance requirements. They perceived the requirements as additional costs, but gradually it's not just a matter of cost but a matter of compliance, which is crucial to enhancing competitiveness and staff retention even. Of course, this cannot be achieved overnight just by, say, promulgating a set of guidelines. It's a gradual shift in mentality. We work with the sector as well. We take a multi-pronged approach. So I'd like to appeal to everybody, including Dr. Ng here, as well as members of the industry, to join hands with us in causing this shift in culture. It's not a matter of cost. If you want to achieve success, you need to consider investor confidence, and that at the end of the day, not only investors will benefit, but the market and Hong Kong status as an IFC will benefit as well. Ms. Julia Lau. Has the government or has the Hong Kong X looked into the fees of auditors in Hong Kong and the remuneration of INED, as well as how they fare comparing to other places, especially with the major IFCs, and will data be provided in promulgating further guidances in the future. For example, by setting up the floor of the fees. Thank you, President. As Dr. Ng said, to quote from certain data, in the past few years, according to data we have at hand, there have been a gradual increase in the level of audit fees or remuneration for INEDs. But I think it's difficult to compare different markets. Rather, we'd like to compare with our own performance over the years. That's a vertical comparison. Now, to answer the second question in relation to the fees. Now, in relation to the fees for auditors, there is a strong correlation with the replacement of auditor, because very often the auditor is replaced and then the audit fees are lower than before. And that is why in 2022-23 we intervened, and at the same time we provided guidance and education to the market. And things have changed since then. After our intervention efforts, we've seen some results. For example, there is still a strong correlation between the replacement of auditors and the lowering of fees. But then, despite an increase in the number of such cases, between 2020 to 2021, the number of cases involving replacement of auditors went up from 249 to 285, and 80% and 70% respectively of these companies experienced lower auditing fees. There is still a problem, but then with our intervention, we see that in 2020 to 2021, there have been a gradual increase in auditing fees. And after promulgating the guidelines, for the proportion of auditor changes in listed companies involving fee cuts of 20% or more, the figure has gradually decreased. Now, of course, we attach great importance to the matter. We'll continue to resort to various regulatory means to tackle the problem together. Mr. Johnny Ng. President, Hong Kong as an international financial center faces fierce competition from the region. For INEDs in Hong Kong, in general, the remuneration is on the low side. There is also a higher compliance risk. Against this backdrop, there are difficulties in attracting high-end overseas INEDs to come to Hong Kong and take up positions. Are there measures for the government to better attract these high-end incoming talents to come to Hong Kong and bolster our status as an IFC? Thank you, President. I think that when it comes to talents, it's not just a matter of high-end or low-end ones. We want to find the person most suitable to take up the position. In terms of enhancing corporate governance, we also want the most fit and proper person to be the director sitting on the board of a listed entity, so that they can better safeguard the interests of not only major shareholders but minority investors as well. Now, we need to provide incentive. This will drive quality and suitable personnel or professionals to come and participate in our work in this regard. In the past, we have been liaising with different organizations and groups. There are over or close to 3,000 listed entities in Hong Kong. And we do have a considerable amount of professionals serving different listed entities in Hong Kong in the past. So I suppose through these organizations, we have been able to converge the forces, and that for new listed companies, there are avenues or platforms available for them to engage the INEDs. Another point is this. The Hong Kong Act is one of the regulators for listed companies. Through enhancements of the systems and mechanisms, we've continued to impose some regulatory requirements on INEDs and corporate governance. For example, in terms of the corporate governance code, we have added more requirements, and on auditing, again, we've also put in place requirements for INEDs to give play to their respective roles in the process. So the Hong Kong Acts have continued to put in place more requirements for listed entities to enhance corporate governance. Now, from another perspective, with more professionals being appointed and with more and more listed companies in Hong Kong, there'll be a healthy interaction and a healthy circle, and that more people will be willing to join the team and become INEDs, board of directors in listed entities. We'll continue with this line of work. We'll be happy to take views from members in the future so as to further enhance corporate governance and the role of INED in the financial ecosystem to promote quality development of the market. Mr. Hong Kam In. According to Hong Kong Act's website's introduction, for INED, their role is the same as other directors. They should be equipped with skills, and they should be competent in exercising their duties and discharging the duties and exercising the powers prudently, and that the board of directors will need to make independent judgments. They'll be subject to internal risk control and compliance. Will the AFCD promulgate further guidelines on the appointment of INEDs to enhance corporate governance and of listed entities, as well as boosting investor confidence? Secretary. Well, very shortly, I think members' concern is about composition of the board of listed entities. Now, for listed entities, the Hong Kong Act plays a crucial role in monitoring the listed companies, and it should be the suitable regulatory body to step in if necessary. And second of all, in the past, different measures have been rolled out to elucidate the role of INED, for example, the relevant requirements in terms of qualifications and training. The AFRC have put forward recommendations. With more and more listed companies in Hong Kong and with more and more personnel being appointed as INED, I'm sure that there will be measures to make sure that they exercise due diligence and protect investors and minority shareholders.
Last question seeking an oral